Welcome in the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Balls on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, boy, what's going on?
Oh, man. Great to hear your voice 2 days in a row. This feels like Christmas in February. You know what?
It's like Groundhog's Day. Forget Valentine's Day. It's like Groundhog's Day in here. No, and it's so funny because we're trying a new approach. You guys don't know this, a little bit behind the scenes. Me and Mike, for the longest time when we do these shows, we don't see each other. I'm viewing at a spot in the back of the wall, and I'm just talking away. But Mike's like, "Hey, let's zoom this thing up," you know. So this is the first one we actually get to see each other, which is great. Because I was joking with him earlier. Sometimes I'll watch the YouTube channel and I'll say some hilarious joke, and I realize that bastard ain't even paying attention.
Yeah, I can't get away with that anymore.
Can't do it anymore.
But, man, we've got a fun topic to discuss on this episode of the show. We kind of hinted at it on the last episode. The SEC, now with Texas and Oklahoma coming in, they are going to the pods. I mean, it's all but official. They just got to figure out if it's going to be 8-game SEC schedule, which we currently have. If we're going to expand to 9, that answer will come. But whether it's immediately in 2024 when Texas and Oklahoma come, or if it's in 2025, 2026, whatever, we are going to a 9-game model at some point in time. Just there's too much money on the table. There's too many good teams. We got to rotate the schedule. That's why we're blowing this thing up. No more East Division. No more West Division.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into that in just a minute. But we did have some potentially big news in the SEC here on Tuesday. I ain't saying death of the dynasty by any means, but hey, Todd Monken, the engineer of Georgia's outstanding offense, off to the NFL, hired by the Baltimore Ravens. So Georgia, all of a sudden, Shane, I mean, again, they're still going to be the pick to win the East. You look at that schedule, I mean, hell, they should go 12-0, but suddenly there's kind of some cracks in the foundation, and even that may be too strong, but Todd Monken gone, Stetson Bennett gone, total rework here of or reloading is probably what the more accurate description down there. But I think if you're a fan of the other SEC East teams, you're at least gives you a little glimmer of hope now that Todd Monken is off to the NFL. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, you know, the talks have started with Georgia potentially being the next Nick Saban in Alabama. And one of the things that you could always look at with Georgia and Alabama is they've always got great recruiting classes. But what's made Nick Saban so successful is when he loses coordinators, and he does often, he typically finds a perfect replacement, and sometimes even better than the year prior. Now, obviously, last season was a hiccup, you know, but looking at that track record, it's been pretty impressive. How does Kirby move forward in that? Because they're always going to be vultures. You got Lanning leaving. You now lost your OC. It's going to be a revolving door down there, and I think that's where is this something that can last for 10 years, or is this going to be a one-hit wonder? So I think this is a crucial hire, man. I don't know if you've got a short list ready or anything like that, but you know, if Georgia's going to be that dynasty, as we like to coin it already, it's imperative that Kirby gets somebody in there and they don't miss a step. You know, we can't rebuild coaching staffs. We got to keep doing the Georgia football that we saw this year.
Well, here's the thing, Shane. I mean, as soon as Todd Monken left for the NFL, within the hour, they already named their next offensive coordinator. So,
shit! That shows how close I was to it. So,
hey, it's Valentine's Day. I'm not even going to want to get into what's been going on down there. You're locked in with the missus.
let me real quick before you go down this path. When she says, and you ask her, "What do you want for Valentine's Day?" and she says, "Oh, I don't need anything." That's a rookie mistake. She did want something, and I didn't get it, so we had to go out to dinner. I have been off the grid, no Call of Duty, nothing. I am zoned in, so I am in the doghouse right now, Mike. So, so I'm sorry I missed the OC hire, but who is it? I am curious.
So they're bringing back. He was already on staff. He's been all over the SEC. He's been Georgia's offensive coordinator, Mike Bobo, who was he was an analyst last season at Georgia, but obviously the first year under Brian Harsin, he was Auburn's offensive coordinator. The year Will Muschamp got fired at South Carolina, he was South Carolina's offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. And people look at that, Shane, and they say, my God, this is the guy that they put up record numbers when they had Aaron Murray down there, but it was kind of the beginning of the end for Mark Richt. Mike Bobo was his offensive coordinator, and then Bobo got the Colorado State head coaching job, and a year later, Mark Richt was fired. So, this is not an exciting name by any means. I think a lot of the other SEC fans are kind of poking fun at Georgia, but at the end of the day, Shane, what is it that I say time and time again? The players matter more than the coaches. Mm-hmm. That's not to say these coaches don't matter, because there are some elite coaches in the SEC. But give me Georgia's roster, they got better roster than anybody they're facing. Mike Bobo is not going to derail this thing. He's not going to, reinvent the wheel down there. They're going to stick to a lot of the same principles they were running under Todd Monken, and he was working hand in hand with Todd Monken the last 2 seasons. So, again, they're not going to blow things up. He is a great recruiter, but, again, not a...
But Mike, I'm a great recruiter if you take me down to Athens. You know what I'm saying? It's like that doesn't mean anything. The problem I have with Mike Bobo is we've tried pumping him up at the last 2 SEC stops, and I'm not shitting on Georgia. I mean, the Bulldogs are still having parades down there, and they should. I'm just saying I wouldn't be. I just found out, and this raw emotion here from cousin Shane, but I'm just not wowed. I think there will be a drop off, and I know players are the most important part, but when you look at that Ohio State game, that came down to coaching there at the end, and good, and not to mention the players, but if that is a bad coach back there, then we're not talking about another national championship. We're talking about a team that had a great year but couldn't finish it.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a hell of a point. I mean, you could certainly say Alabama had the talent to win the national championship, but why didn't they? Because they didn't have the right coordinators down there. So, again, I think this does give you hope if you're another SEC squad, right. But I don't think it's going to certainly be enough for anyone to be crazy enough not to pick Georgia to win the SEC East heading into next season. But, hell, crazier things have happened. You know what?
But let me ask you, because Kirby is in a weird situation. You can't just go out and get an upcoming OC. You need somebody, it feels like, with a track record. But there's not too many that are willing to take that job. I mean, when you're looking at Georgia, you're like, it's like the Ravens of the NFL, or do I go to the number 1 team in the country and be an OC down there and just it seems like, the knock on Saban was he has the rehab going down there. Well, sometimes that's who he can get, Are you going to see? Do you feel, because I mean, you can say the thing about Mike Bobo. I mean, he's kind of been beat up a few times. You mentioned South Carolina. You mentioned his head coaching job there at Colorado State. He's not had a successful run since he left Georgia. It doesn't feel like. Do you feel like that's what we're going to start seeing revolving down there in Georgia, kind of that rehab mentality with the coaching staff?
Yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't really thought of it quite like that, but throw Will Muschamp into that mix. I mean, how many times that guy going to get fired? Now he's down there in Athens, and he looks like one of the best assistants in the country. So
right,
you may be on to something there, Shane. And if I'm a Georgia fan, I think that gives me hope that Mike Bobo will do well because he's going to have all this talent to work with. And I thought, particularly that last year at South Carolina, I thought he did a good job, Shane. You remember they were a rushing machine.
Well, yeah.
Their quarterback, he was awful. His name was Colin Hill, I think. They got him from Colorado State. I think they brought him in to be a backup. Their starter got hurt or something. And then with Shane Beamer, we're all excited about what they brought there. But the offense was a train wreck because they had lost Mike Bobo. And then, certainly Auburn was not elite on offense, but they lost Mike Bobo, and then all of a sudden they're god-awful. So,
right.
I think he did an average job. I think for being kind at Auburn and South Carolina. If he does an average job at Georgia, again, they're good enough to win the SEC, maybe even win the national championship again. Yeah. But, I mean, like I said, maybe not. When you get into those primetime playoff matchups, Mike Bobo, can he get you over the hill? That's the question I'm asking myself if I'm a Georgia fan.
Right, and I think the Georgia recipe has been from within, so just keep them coming up, and if you get an excellent opportunity to bring somebody from the outside that maybe has had a bad luck on their own, absolutely, we'll bring you into the Athens rehab, but the recipe's there, and it has worked at Tuscaloosa, it has worked at some other universities, and hell, it's kind of working in Georgia, like you said. So I'm just curious, man. It's like, what's the desire for an OC to go to a job like that, unless you can prove that you're going to land a head coaching position? I mean, we've got now a head coach in Oregon. We got an OC in the NFL, which I'm curious, like he could have had opportunities to be a head coach in college football. I wonder what the desire was for him to go to the NFL at the same position, So that one I kind of scratched my head a little bit. But, if you can keep bringing coordinators in and then giving them head coaching opportunities, that's the fuel, man. That's the revolving doors you need down there.
Right. And the only thing I'll add on that, Shane, just the main reason I heard Monken wanted to go for the NFL, nothing bad about Kirby or Georgia, but just that's life of a college coach. It's tough now, man. All summer you got to do these camps, you got to recruit, you got to deal with NIL. Whereas in the NFL, if those opportunities come up, you get to do football X's and O's, and then when you're out of the office, you get to live your life. It's not exactly that way for college football anymore, and when you're damn near 60 years old, I don't know how much of your time you want to be spending recruiting 16, 17, and 18-year-old guys if you don't have to. You know what I mean?
Hell, I'm 40, Mike. I don't want to drive to Walmart. I can't imagine driving to Mobile, Alabama, and Birmingham, and hot-ass Louisiana, trying to get this kid to come to my school. That would be miserable. Every day you're on the road. So I get that side, man. I definitely would have chose the NFL route if I had a shot.
All right, Shane. So, hey, let's get into this SEC scheduling model. And before we do, we got to take a moment here, Shane. I just thought this was kind of interesting to kind of talk about. But so this season, we wish Texas and Oklahoma were coming already. But what this means, this is going to be the final year that we're going to have the East and West divisions in the SEC. So I just thought it would be interesting real quick to run this down, Shane. The last time each SEC team won a division title, again, this is going to be the last opportunity they have to do it. So obviously Georgia and LSU, they just did it.
You're right.
Alabama in 2021, Florida in 2022, Auburn 2017, Missouri.
Wait, you said Florida 2022.
Oh, I'm sorry, 2020. There a lot of twos in there. The COVID year, 2020, Florida won the East. 2017, Auburn won the West. How about this one, Shane? Missouri, 2014. They're right up there with Florida and Georgia. That's crazy. South Carolina, 2010. Tennessee, 2007. Arkansas, 2006. Mississippi State, 1998. And then the four I haven't mentioned, Shane, Ole Miss, A&M, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt, they have never won a division title. So this will be the only opportunity they have, Shane, to snap those streaks. But I don't know. It's just kind of wild to think about. This is your last opportunity to win an SEC division title.
Repeat the ones that have not. So who's going to do it this year? Okay.
Which I think they got an outside shot here. Texas A&M, dark horse. They were your pick last year, and they didn't quite
bastards.
Get it done.
I'm going to tell them last place so they have a little motivation to get there.
Kentucky, which who knows? They catch fire. They've come close a time or two. And then Vanderbilt. Those are the only four that have never won an SEC division title.
All right, Mike, you got to pick one. You put $100 on it. Out of those teams, who is going to win the title?
I think the answer most people would give is A&M, but again, hey, this is the off season of hype. I'm not trashing them, but I don't think it's trashing them to say, I've kind of lost some confidence. We got to see him do it. I'm not going to project that. Kentucky, I love the moves Kentucky have made, but this year, Shane, they
got Bama
out of the West. So I can't go Kentucky. I got to go Ole Miss.
Okay, all right, Mike, and I'm going down. I'm going down again with the Aggies, baby. If you keep betting on it, eventually it'll happen. Even a broken clock's right twice a day, So, if I'm picking out of all those, I like Kentucky. I like the moves they've made, but Georgia and Alabama, that's a tough one. Give, and not to say that A&M and Ole Miss doesn't have tough opponents either, but it's just something about it. I see it over your shoulder there. The Texas A&M 12th man, I got to go with them.
Okay, yeah, and I mean, if they've got the pieces in place, if Bobby Petrino breathes life into that offense. Yeah. Again, I mean, it's. I don't think it would be as wild as LSU winning the West last year, A&M winning it this year, and hell, I don't know anybody that picked LSU to do it, and hell, they did it.
Wouldn't that be something? Win the championship right before Texas comes over. Have the parade in their backyard.
So that being said, Shane, let's look ahead to how the SEC scheduling model, what it should look like here with the pods. We're assuming it. Let's just assume it's going to be a 9-game SEC schedule, which it will eventually, whether they do that immediately or not. They will get it ironed out at some time. So that means they'll have each SEC team will have 3 permanent opponents, and they'll rotate the other 6 so they can play everybody in a 2-year span. So what we're trying to do here, Shane, is nail the perfect 3 permanent opponents for every single SEC team. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes perfect sense, Mike.
Now,
this is your list. This is your list. I don't have a list. I'm just going off of your list. So, I mean, how can you mess this up, Mike? And
I will say this, because they talked about it last offseason. They did not obviously come to a decision. But Jimbo Fisher, he leaked it at Media Days, who they said A&M will be playing annually. So I got to throw this into the mix. Jimbo Fisher says A&M will be playing Texas.
Okay.
No surprise. LSU, which is kind of like their big rival currently in the SEC, and Mississippi State, which is a little bit of a wild card there. But if Jimbo's accurate, and because I don't think he was supposed to say this, but he said it by mistake, so that helps complete a little piece of the puzzle there. At least Texas A&M's 3.
Yeah, and 2, I guess the one that stood out to me was South Carolina not being on there. They kind of forced that rivalry on us.
Right.
But they do have a trophy, and I was wondering how that's going to look, because naturally when you're looking at this pod situation, you're gonna think of the teams that you play on an annual basis, and clearly that was not a factor in this one. So very interesting. Mississippi State was chosen there.
Now, before I get into team by team who the 3 teams are, Shane, I got a list here of, looks like 7 matchups here. I call these must-play games. You cannot leave these off the list. I'll go through them, and then you let me know if there's any that I missed that you think are games that must be played annually. And for me, it starts with the Iron Bowl, of course. Alabama, Auburn. It's in-state opponents.
Yes,
we got to play that one, right?
Got to play that one. Not even a question, Mike. I think when you think of the word, like the biggest rivalry in college football, everyone that I know in my little circle brings up the Iron Bowl. So I'm with you there.
Right. And then Florida, Georgia. We got to play that one.
Florida, Georgia. Oh yeah, absolutely. Any neutral site game should be on this list. Are you talking Texas, Oklahoma too? Are you going to be doing their pod as well?
All right. Oh yeah, okay. They're SEC now, brother.
Yeah, I know it's good. That's going to take some getting used to, you know.
So that's clearly on the list. Oklahoma, Texas. We'll keep at one. Texas versus Texas A&M. I think we got to add this to the list as well.
Yes, got to be there. Got to be there. It's I mean, that was a rivalry before. We've talked about it ever since, and we got to keep it rolling. So, yeah, bring those guys in.
And I think we've said this many times, maybe the most underrated rivalry in all of college football, the Egg Bowl, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. That's a must-keep.
Must keep for me, Mike. I think that's one of those that, especially here lately, has become such a great game to watch. So that's not going to stop anytime soon. Got to keep these two I mean, when you talk in-state, and I think that's one of the things that you're bringing up, these are two teams that are inside one state. Those are the ones that you kind of need to circle anyway.
Right. And then anytime a game's got a nickname, Shane, we got to put it all there. The Deep South's oldest rivalry, Auburn, Georgia. Yeah. Games like this is a reason we're going to the 3 permanent, so we can keep games like that. Auburn, Georgia, that's got to be on the list too, right?
Absolutely, Mike. Absolutely. Game's lost a little bit of luster here lately, but don't let it sleep on you. I mean, here in a couple seasons, we may be having another tight matchup here.
Now, the only other one I've got on my must play, and you kind of already referenced it, in-state opponents here: Tennessee, Vanderbilt. I know that's not like a historically great game or anything, but there's some bad blood there, and keeping it in-state, we just got to play that one, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As a Tennessee fan, keep that one penciled in, my friend. That's one of those teams that's never won a conference game, you know? Or not a conference, you know what I mean? So, just kidding. I always think back, you never really thought about this as a rivalry, but then Franklin came through there, and I'm telling you, you talking to the old guys like me, man, that you think about that, and the games that were played, it's a rivalry. So yes, it's in state, it's right down the street, 2-3 hours from us. So we got to have them on the list for sure.
Now those are the only ones, Shane, that I've got on my list that are must be played. But I do got a couple other ones that very, very close to that list. And I would say, what do you got? What would top your list there?
Yeah, must be played. One of the first ones that popped to my mind. Well, I've got 2, brother. But I'm just going to be honest with you. The first one that came to my mind was Florida and LSU. I just think that's such a great game. That's become such a great game. Now, it's not one maybe your grandfather talked about, you know, but I think the last 10, 15 years, that has just been such an exciting matchup. And I think that rivalry has gotten better as we've gotten older. So that's the first one. And the other one for me was Tennessee, Kentucky, just because we hate Kentucky. They hate Tennessee. It's perfect. We got the bourbon bet. You know, we got to keep that rolling. So those are the first 2 that popped in my mind.
Interesting. When you said, Tennessee, I thought you'd say Alabama versus Tennessee, but that didn't quite make the cut for you?
Well, Mike, I'm going to be honest with you. Just because you beat them once in the last 15 years, I'm still – I obviously, it is a rivalry. But I don't know. Maybe because we're in basketball season or something now, I'm thinking about it. But, yeah, I mean, you got to have Tennessee. Damn, Mike. You got to have Alabama. Tennessee, Alabama, third Saturday in October.
Yeah.
Definitely going to be on there. Probably a lot of Vol fans are pissed that I didn't say that one first, but if you stop and think, I don't have a list. I'm going off your list. So,
Right.
But definitely, I think you just nailed Tennessee's 3 teams right there.
Right. How about Alabama LSU? Is that a must? I mean, that has become one of the best games in the country, but I don't know if we can keep it because Alabama's already got Auburn. They potentially got Tennessee. I mean, we love all these games, but I don't know if that quite makes the cut.
Yeah, that one's a little tougher, man, because I'm with you. Auburn makes sense. Tennessee makes sense. These are teams that, but LSU is just we've played some really good games lately, and I think the knock on LSU and Alabama is just that typically these 2 teams are always in the top 10, and when they play, it's a top 10 matchup. So that's why it's become more of a focal piece here because it's usually a 3:30 game CBS.
Right. And then the only other one that I see, and I think they'll keep this one, Arkansas versus Texas. I think that is a potential great rivalry that I hope they make that an annual game.
I do too. I do too, and I think that that's a game that we've not talked about really in a long time. I mean, obviously we talked about it when they played that year, but this is one of those that is a storied rivalry, and it's just going to take a little getting used to. But I think that it's important that they come back for sure. Obviously, you mentioned Texas and Oklahoma earlier. One that's kind of on my radar. I know Arkansas fans do not want to hear this, but man, that Mizzou-Arkansas matchup has been great. Border war there. I just think that it's important for recruiting, and I think the proximity, you definitely want to maybe consider that. Would you consider that in the top, like in their 3 pod there?
Yeah, that is. Well, so let's just get right into it. That is firmly on my Arkansas 3. It's Texas, which we just referenced.
Yeah.
It's Missouri, which I hate to even consider that a SEC league game. But, hey, I'll throw them a bone here, Shane. Arkansas fans, they love that LSU series.
Yeah.
So that would be my 3rd. And I would, just to appease the great fans there of Arkansas, one thing that I think really bothers them is playing that Missouri game as the last game during rivalry weekend. So let's flip that back to LSU. Rivalry weekend, LSU, Arkansas. That is normally LSU playing Texas A&M. That's why they moved that Arkansas game. But I have to believe that Texas A&M will be the Thanksgiving rivalry week game. So that frees up LSU, Arkansas, the battle for the Golden Boot. Make that the rival. And then, again, Arkansas may not be happy playing Missouri, but if they get that LSU game on Thanksgiving, it's kind of you may lose something, but you're getting something back. So I think it makes everybody happy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key word, happy. I don't think you're going to make everyone happy in this situation, but
right,
you got to find the top 3 for everybody, not just certain teams, and it's got to make sense. Like this, I joked earlier about the Texas A&M South Carolina. That never made sense to me. They were so far away, there's just no draw to that game, in my opinion. Now, 4 or 5 years into the thing, then it becomes a pretty cool matchup, and I think that's what's going to happen here. These pods are going to take some getting used to, but then you're going to be used to them,
Right. So I didn't want to skip Alabama, but Alabama, so we already said Auburn. We got to play that one. Let's throw Tennessee into that mix.
Yeah.
And this may seem, you might be, what the hell? Why is this one? Mississippi State, the closest to campuses in the SEC. They've been playing football for 100 years.
Yes.
You could throw LSU in there, but I don't know. That'd be a tough. That's almost like 3 juggernauts. I don't know. I think Mississippi State, Alabama. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think you're right with Mississippi State, and if you've not watched an Alabama-Mississippi State, this is a stat you should know, that they are extremely close together. Proximity, I think, is very, very important. It makes sense to keep these pods close together. So I'm on board with this matchup, and I think Alabama's good with it too.
Right.
You got Tennessee, you got Auburn, Mississippi State makes sense. You've been playing them every year, so I think you nailed this one.
Now, how about Auburn, Shane? I've got, again, obviously the Iron Bowl. We talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia, we've already talked about that. These are must. But you're sitting there and saying, my God, we got a pod against Alabama, Georgia. We got to throw them a bone here. So I threw Vanderbilt as the third one. And, I'm not trying to disrespect Vanderbilt, but you need a break. It's got to be at least somewhat competitive here. And those campuses are fairly close together, Nashville and Auburn. So I don't know. What do you think about that for Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, Vanderbilt?
Yeah. And it's almost like, I almost wish we could start this conversation because there's a couple teams. There's Oklahoma, there's Vanderbilt, Kentucky, South Carolina. There's a couple of teams that don't have that just glaring rivalry like some of these other schools do. And but you're right, Vandy has to have three. So it's almost less to do with Auburn and more to do with Vanderbilt, in my opinion. So Auburn, that makes sense. They're not too far apart, again, proximity here. I probably said that word 15 times on this podcast, so you may want to edit that out. But I just learned it this morning, Mike. Don't ask me to spell it, but I'm going to go with it. Now, do I think that there would be better games on Auburn's list? Absolutely. But this feels like one of those situations that somebody's going to have to give a little bit.
Right. Now, speaking of proximity, this was a tough one, Shade. Florida, again, we already talked about Georgia. Throw them into the mix.
Yeah.
I think South Carolina makes a ton of sense. That's fairly close. They've been playing a long time. But here's one, and it goes exactly to what you're saying. It's hard to put all these puzzle pieces together. This one kind of on paper is going to make the least sense, but we got to fit them with somebody. I'm going Florida and Oklahoma, which really is kind of odd, but we're talking two of the juggernauts in the sport. I mean that could be the next LSU Florida type matchup. I mean, we could get some great games between those two. It kind of ran out of room, and I didn't know where else to go with it. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on that for Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and Oklahoma?
Florida would have Georgia, South Carolina, and Oklahoma. Oh, yeah, I'm with you, man. It's going to be great, epic games. I could say that. And, but yeah, no, that's a tough one because, man, you think of all the good games. I love Florida, LSU. I love Florida, Georgia. I love Florida, South Carolina. Hell, I love Florida, Tennessee. As much as I hate losing to that game. That's a tough one for me because, that's what decided the East. It felt like in the 90s, in the 2000s. Right. So,
now we could maybe throw in Auburn instead of Oklahoma, but then Auburn would be sitting here looking at Alabama, Georgia, and Florida as their three permanents.
Hell, they were already bitching about Georgia, and you know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna throw another one in there. So I think you're right. I think I'm gonna hold off on Florida. I want to see what else you got here because I'm stuck on that Oklahoma one.
Right. Okay. So how about Georgia? We already talked Florida.
Who did you say LSU? Who was in their pod? Have we done them yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, so clearly you don't have LSU in Florida.
Right.
Right? So
but we've already got Arkansas and LSU. And I said we'll flex that one up Thanksgiving to make the Razorbacks happy.
Yeah.
Jimbo has already said that LSU and A&M will be playing in a pod.
Right.
Again, maybe he's completely wrong, but I don't know why. I don't believe he would have said that unless he had knowledge of it. Of
I mean, why would Jimbo lie? You know, why would you? I mean, he had 500 papers on the sideline. Maybe he didn't read the right one. You know, did you see his play calling this year? Maybe he was wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
The other one I have for LSU is Ole Miss, which that's a rivalry, and they're border. So maybe you switch out Ole Miss for Florida. I don't know, but then you gotta figure it out for Ole Miss. You know.
You gotta give up, man. That's the thing. We gotta give up some stuff. So, yeah, I think you're on to something there.
All right. So how about for Georgia? We already talked Florida. They got to play Florida every year.
Yeah.
Auburn. They've been playing 100+ years. We've got to keep that one. And then the third one, I put South Carolina because I think that's a nice little budding rivalry border. Shane Beamer. That's becoming something good there. So if I'm a Georgia fan, I think I'm pretty happy with Florida, Auburn, and South Carolina.
Yeah, I think you nailed this one here, and that there's something about that Georgia South Carolina right there on the line. So a lot of fans. I mean, that is obviously the rivalry's been going more Georgia's way, but you saw them coming out of the woodworks when they missed that field goal, that one year. So I like this one, Mike. I do. I think this is a good one here.
All right, how about Kentucky? And apparently, Shay, this is the team that's going to be toughest to talk into going into the 9-game schedule. So maybe I'm reading too much into it, but maybe we got to throw them a bone to get them to commit to it. Kentucky, I've given them Tennessee. We already hit on that. That's a great game. Vanderbilt, of course, they've been playing for many years now. And Ole Miss, which doesn't make a ton of sense. They did play last year, but Oxford and Lexington, that's not that far of a drive either. So I think that's a 3 that Kentucky, if they had to go to 9-game, I think they'd sign off for Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Ole Miss.
Yeah. Man, I like that South Carolina matchup, though. That was a good one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would prefer Vandy, Tennessee, and South Carolina, but I think, again, here we are. We're at the bottom of the barrel, and you gotta pick a home for this team. So it's not so much that Kentucky doesn't have options out there. It's just that some of these other options don't have anywhere else to go. So, I guess I could be convinced that's a good one. I'm a little torn. That Ole Miss, Kentucky don't get me wrong. We've had some great games watching them play against each other, but it doesn't scream to me rivalry,
Right. No, I see you. That's a tough one. You can talk me into that for sure.
Yeah, what about the Florida? What about Florida and Kentucky? I mean, that one's been such a good one. You talked about Oklahoma. Yeah. Why don't we do Florida gets so Kentucky gets Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Florida.
Hey,
think about it.
You might be improving this list as we're going through it. So
I love that game, man. Early in the year, I hope they would keep it, like that. It's been very exciting to watch here the last few seasons.
So I kind of already hit on it, LSU, but I'll do it again real quick. Ole Miss, A&M, that's what, according to Jimbo, and Arkansas on Thanksgiving. I think that'll feels like the 3 for LSU. Ole Miss, we got to keep the Egg Bowl. So Mississippi State's on there, LSU's on there, and I got Kentucky, which that may or may not be the pairing, but again, I think Ole Miss, Kentucky, I think that's a fairly even battle that both programs would sign off on.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not bad. On my list, if I'm moving Kentucky and Florida, I would consider. We're going to get to Oklahoma here, but I think that's the closest SEC team to Oklahoma, ain't it? Well, I mean, other than Texas, I guess. That would be the other one I would consider, is maybe moving them out there. I mean, Ohio, that would be a fun game, man. Lane Kiffin showing up to out there in Norman. You know what I'm saying? That may be a hell of a matchup. So
you could talk me into that too.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So Mississippi State again. Of course, we got to have the Egg Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
We already talked about Alabama.
Yeah.
And then Jimbo says it's going to be A&M. So right there, that's their 3.
That's their 3. I mean, can't argue with that one.
And hell, they've owned Jimbo, so they're probably not happy with Alabama, but they'll take the other 2.
Absolutely. So read that one to me one more time.
Mississippi State will have Ole Miss,
Yeah.
Alabama, and Texas A&M.
Man, they keep getting it, don't they? They can't get out of their own way. They're looking up Tennessee's pod, and we got Vandy, and we got Kentucky, and they're playing, national champs. Okay. You know what's crazy is when you were talking Tennessee earlier, and you took Georgia out of the mix, I immediately got excited. I was like, oh, shit, we ain't got to deal with Georgia? That would be awesome. But don't forget, when we go to this pod thing, we're playing Georgia every other year, So even though you may get a year off, that just means they're rolling into town the next season. So
Right.
You're not really able to hide from some of these SEC opponents anymore.
Right, and probably the year you don't get Georgia, you get, Texas, Florida, LSU, on and on and on. I mean, it's a damn murderer's row every year.
Have we seen the last undefeated season, Mike? Have we seen it? The knock when we were talking Georgia last year was the scheduling, and we're looking at it and we're like, where is the loss? They're not playing Alabama. They're not playing, was it LSU, or any of these. They weren't doing that. And so that's why, I put a lot of money on them win. I think the bet was 10.5 was the spread to start of the season. Man, I put a shit ton of money. I'm like, dude, they're going to win 11 games easy. So it's going to be far and few between. Next year may be something, but after that, it's going to be really, really tough to see any undefeated teams going through the SEC.
Yeah, not only that, Shay, but the teams that you look at and say that, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, teams that could run the table, they are loading up with Clemson, Notre Dame, Oklahoma and Texas. Of course, they're coming into the league now, but Southern Cal. It goes on and on and on. They are beefing up their non-conference because they knew the playoff was going to be expanding. So I think it's smart the way a lot of these teams are looking at it. We may not be able to survive this murderer's row of the SEC in the years to come, but if we have a win over, if we have one loss in the SEC and we beat Southern Cal and Notre Dame and Boston College, or what, that's a hell of a resume, Yeah,
it is, and I think that's what you're going to be doing is beefing up. You're getting your wins outside the conference against other serious opponents. You have to,
right?
Because I and I'm not knocking TCU or anything like that, but here's a team with a great record, but they got their ass destroyed in the championship game and I think that was important because when these guys get into that office next season and they're voting for teams, they're going to be a little bit more hesitant bringing somebody in there because there was lots of money. I'm talking tons of money lost because nobody was watching that game past the halftime. Well, if they're not watching games, they're not watching commercials. And if you're not watching commercials, they're not making money. So money drives this league, and I think there's going to be you're going to see a little bit more of that in the future. It's not about wins and losses as much as it is who'd you played, how was it, how close was it. You're going to see a lot more of those I almost said it. One of those close games, you know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to go undefeated anymore,
right?
But you cannot afford to be blown out,
Yeah. All right, Shane, almost done with this list here. Missouri. So we've already talked about Arkansas. That makes a ton of sense for them. Oklahoma, I think that's a natural. They've got the history with them, so that makes a ton of sense. And then this one, you may want to correct it. You may want to change it. But I got Missouri and South Carolina, the battles of Columbia
baby. Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that because I love that. I do. Obviously, they're not too close together, but it's just there's been so many great games come out of this thing, and
Right.
Mizzou's going to have to find a couple opponents. South Carolina, same thing, going to need some more opponents. And the way these two teams have been playing makes it better moving forward. So I like them in a pod.
So Oklahoma, again, got to have Texas in there.
Yep.
Missouri, just said that. That makes all the sense in the world. And I have it as Florida, but you may have talked me into Ole Miss. Makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But proximity. But but even if it's not Ole Miss, again, you could sell me pretty quick on Oklahoma, Florida playing annually.
Yeah.
I think that could become a great new series.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, obviously there's some just like glaring, opponents when you're talking Texas and Oklahoma, and that's just something about the Sooners is a little bit tougher to pick. And I'm with you. That third team, kind of a wild card. You're just gonna have to make us believe that that's going to be a good game.
Right. So for South Carolina, again, we got Florida, Georgia, and Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're a Gamecock fan, I think you'd sign off on that.
Florida, Georgia, and who?
Missouri.
Yeah, this was the one I was thinking. Yeah, I guess at this point, Mike, we're so deep in this list, I'm going to have to go with it, brother. Who's on first? What's on second? You're going to have some pictures of this because my brain is just like, I can just hear somebody now driving down the interstate and their 18-wheeler just being like, what the hell are they talking about? I thought Shane said they're going to play Vanderbilt,
Yeah, for sure. I'll have to make some graphics or something of this one. But we already hit on Tennessee. Sounds like you already signed off on theirs. Vanderbilt, in-state opponent. Alabama, all the history in the world. And Kentucky, suddenly a budding rivalry there. You hate to lose games like the Florida-Georgia game. I mean, those are great games too. But like you said, hey, you'll be playing them every other year. So you're not losing a ton of history. You're just losing it on an annual basis. And hell, if you're good enough, if they're good enough, you'll see them in the SEC championship. You could do that as well.
No, I think you're right, brother. You're going to play these guys twice in 4 years, so and potentially more, like you said, if there's an SEC championship involved. So, plenty of opportunities to face SEC opponents. That's why the 9 games was so important, man.
Mm-hmm. Now, Texas, again, A&M makes all the sense in the world. Oklahoma, we got to play those. And then Arkansas, I think that's a win-win for all those teams.
Yeah, I do too, Mike. And golly, I'm getting excited thinking about this. And are the pods going to have names, I mean, are they going to have – did anybody – I mean, we can't just call them pods. We're the podcast, It's like they're going to come up – surely they're going to come up with something, some sort of – you think so? Or you think I'm just being stupid?
I mean,
you can't say pod 1 and are we just going to assume – like there's no pod, like we're not going to say anything about pod. Well, I mean, we got to reference them somehow.
I don't think they want to do it that way, Shane, because what they're afraid of is like, well, this pod is clearly the best, and Alabama won it. We finished 2, and then pod number 6 or whatever. They're like, well, what the hell? Our pod champion, you know what I mean? Like, I think they want to get away from that.
No, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
But the fans are definitely going to name these things.
Hell yeah, I'm already trying to name it, We got Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky. So, I mean, there's nothing fancy there. So, I'm just trying to think of, like, never mind. My brain's it's at the end of the night. You know how I get. Mike's like, damn, I'm going to have to clean him up again.
So, A&M, again, this is straight from Jimbo, so we're assuming it's accurate. Texas A&M will play Texas.
Yep.
LSU, who's basically their main rival now in the SEC, and Mississippi State, which doesn't make a ton of sense, but they've been playing annually, and maybe again you don't want to give someone 3 juggernauts in your pod there. You know what?
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. I mean, clearly this is what the list is going to be if Jimbo. I mean, Jimbo could have been lying to us. I don't know. I mean, he could be. But if he's not, I think this is a good list.
Last but not least, Vanderbilt. You got Tennessee, in-state opponent, Kentucky, and Auburn. I think Vanderbilt would be happy with that 3.
Yeah, Vandy will take that. Vandy will take what we give them, you know. If they're not going to take football serious, then we're not going to take their pod serious.
Well, buddy, we're a little bit longer than anticipated. Well, really, it was like 20 minutes of trying to set this bad boy up. I don't think we got near as long as it feels like. But, man, we could talk about this all off season long. And like I said, they are anticipating that they're going to kind of come to this agreement. I mean, we're not talking years. They're talking weeks. They're going to figure all this out. So, man, I can't wait to see. You know, there's going to be arguments and discussions. Why is this team here? Why is that team there? I can't wait for it. You know what?
And Mike's going to have this thing all dolled up and put on the Twitters tomorrow or today if you're listening to it. Yep. And if you thought of something, if you thought a rivalry that should be in the pod list that maybe we didn't touch on, let us know. Jump on there. I am curious because we don't know the answer yet. We're going to find out pretty damn soon, but I'm curious to make that argument on why this team should be in and that team should be out. So that SEC podcast on Twitter, check us out. Be sure to comment, and we definitely like to interact because I'm always curious fan perspective, you know?
Yeah, no doubt. Well, buddy, I appreciate you. As always, hopping on the line. I appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out. You got anything else before we hop off the line?
No, man. I mean, just get on the YouTube. Be sure to subscribe there and give us a like and follow. That thing's taken off, apparently. You know? I don't know. You know, that's what Mike's telling me. I don't read the comments, so don't say anything on there. That's what Rogan says. Don't, because they will rip your heart out. So, but if you need me, I'll be on Twitter. So, but anyway, I hope you're not in the doghouse like I am. But I gotta get out here and make this thing up, Mike. So, I'll see you. What are we going? We're going to reconvene tomorrow, right?
Well, I was thinking the next one we do would be Sunday.
Oh, see, he's had enough of me already. Doesn't even need me. You know. I guess somebody backed out and he couldn't have an interview with him. So he's like, "Hey, Shane, are you busy?" I think you could text my brother in Ukraine, like, you know, is there a chance between bomb drops that you could come on the show? Worst case scenario, I'll ask your brother Shane. So, no, I'm messing with you. Yeah, okay. Well, no. So what do you got planned tomorrow? What do the listeners got in store for tomorrow?
I've already got one guest lined up. I'm trying to get another. So yeah, hopefully we got some great shows to close the week strong. And you know, it's a slow time, so we got to think of creative ways to come up with some content. And I think I've got 2 excellent shows lined up for 2 specific SEC fans. But I think all SEC fans will get something from it. But yeah, so that's just a little teaser for what's to come before we see Cousin Shane back on the show.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'll be floating around. I've been listening the whole time, you know. So all them jokes you made when I wasn't here, I heard every one of them, Mike.
But all right, brother, I'll cut it there. I appreciate you as always. Appreciate each and every one of you. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right, see you guys. Go Vols.